Seven tips to stimulate your brain. It is with our brain that we think. The brain is the seat of our intellectual faculties and is located in the cranium. It is the organ of the central nervous system, to which all the nerves running through our body converge via the spinal cord. The brain thus appears as a sort of control tower, which receives nerve impulses and which commands in return voluntary body movements, raising the arm for example, as well as certain involuntary movements, breathing, body temperature or the beating of our heart for example. In order to function efficiently, our brain needs to be constantly stimulated. The more it works, the better it is. But we can also boost it in other ways. Here are some tips to have a brain at its best. On this channel, we approach health from a global point of view by working on the 4 pillars of health: diet, physical activity, mental health and sleep. If you are not yet a subscriber to the YouTube channel, Top Fitness Health, consider subscribing, and if you want to be notified when a new video is released, consider activating the little bell. Tip number 1. Exercise to build neurons. Until a few years ago, most scientists were convinced that the brain took its final shape a few years after birth and that any subsequent changes could only be negative. Loss of neurons due to alcohol and other toxic substances, brain damage caused by shocks to the head, degeneration due to age or disease. It was thought that the adult brain was unable to make new cells. But we were wrong. The adult brain continues, in part, to make new cells. This process, called neurogenesis, is stimulated by physical exercise. Sport has a beneficial influence on the skills needed for thinking and strategizing. The effects are more pronounced in those who exercise regularly for at least 30 minutes and for at least 6 months. Moving is good for the heart and arteries, which provide oxygen and nourishment to the brain, 2 factors that are essential for its proper functioning. Although the brain represents only 2% of the total volume of the human body, it consumes no less than 20% of the oxygen inhaled by the lungs and 25% of the global energy supply. When the supply is insufficient, the pulse weakens. To meet the needs of this energy-hungry brain, the heart and arteries must function optimally. Exercise also influences brain chemistry and, more specifically, the substances that play a role in internal communication, the neurotransmitters. After a hard day's work, for example, you can simply put on your sneakers and go for a jog or a bike ride, and the fatigue will be replaced by a feeling of well-being. Exercise is a great way to get a boost. And why? Simply because when we exercise, our bodies release endorphins, distressing neurotransmitters that help us concentrate after the effort. Tip number 2. Eat fish and flaxseed. Our brains are 60% fat, and these fats perform several functions in the brain. But, as with all organs, there are several types of fat. Saturated fats, which cause atherosclerosis, the narrowing of blood vessels and poor blood circulation, are bad for the brain. Not to mention the increased risk of stroke. It is therefore absolutely necessary to limit its consumption of saturated fats. Our brain needs polyunsaturated fats which contain fatty acids essential to the good health of neurons. These are the famous omega-3 and 6. In principle, we should consume them in equivalent proportions. But the Western diet provides much more omega-6. The result? The contribution of arachidonic acid, the fatty acid omega-6 that the brain must draw from the food, is often too important. An excess of omega-6 increases the level of prostaglandins, substances that can cause inflammation of the vascular walls, which in turn leads to the formation of clots in the blood. In addition to arachidonic acid, the brain also needs DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, a second essential fatty acid. It is found mainly in fatty fish such as salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring, and in flaxseed oil. Few people have sufficient levels of DHA. Studies have shown that a deficiency is frequently associated with memory problems. So don't hesitate to add oily fish to your menu once or twice a week and dress your salad with flaxseed oil, or even eat flaxseed for breakfast. Tip number 3. Prevent vitamin B deficiency. Vitamins are not only essential for metabolism, they are also essential for a good memory. It is mainly the B vitamins that influence the production of specific neurotransmitters. Deficiencies threaten mainly those who follow a low-calorie or unbalanced diet, as well as those who abuse alcohol. It is suspected, for example, that vitamin B1 deficiency can cause drowsiness and longer reaction times. In alcoholics, it can cause Korsakov's syndrome, which is indicated by memory problems and problems with spatial and temporal orientation. A lack of vitamin B2 causes stress. A deficiency in vitamin B12 causes mental confusion and is suspected to be the cause of one of the forms of dementia. Unfortunately, the process is irreversible. The neurons destroyed as a result of vitamin B12 deficiency cannot be restored. Vitamin B12 deficiency can be caused by a poor assimilation of this vitamin. This is why it is often prescribed as a supplement. Vegetarians are also at increased risk of deficiency because B12 is only found in animal foods. Folic acid, or vitamin B9, is needed to prevent irritability, memory problems and slowed thinking. Tip number 4. Drink plenty of water. Dehydration is a serious threat to the brain and many of us don't drink enough. To do it right, you need to consume at least 1.5 liters of water a day. When you play sports or when it is hot, you need to drink a lot more. Coffee, tea and alcohol do not count. They are diuretic and make us lose water. As soon as you feel thirsty or start to get a headache, you are already short of water. Dehydration is quickly accompanied by mental confusion, concentration and immediate memory problems. This explains why in summer, during a heat wave, some elderly people seem visibly dazed. They have simply forgotten to drink enough. Tip number 5. Keep your blood sugar levels stable. The brain gets most of its energy from glucose, which the body makes from carbohydrates in the diet. Enzymes in the digestive tract convert them into glucose. This glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream and allows the brain to refuel. But not all carbohydrates are created equal. Simple carbohydrates, for example sugar, are quickly converted into glucose. This sudden rise in glucose levels causes the pancreas to produce a lot of insulin to bring it down. This reactive hypoglycemia interferes with concentration and the proper functioning of immediate memory. In schools, teachers have noticed that their students are often less attentive after recess, because of the immediate drop in blood sugar levels following the intake of a snack and a soda, both rich in fast sugars. To keep our brain in top condition, we need carbohydrates that can maintain a good energy level in the blood for a long time. These are the complex carbohydrates found in abundance in whole grains and most vegetables. Their transformation into glucose takes place much more slowly and the glucose level in the blood remains much more stable. Tip number 6. Get plenty of antioxidants. Free radicals are byproducts of cellular metabolism. They are highly reactive particles that try to bind to healthy cells in any way they can. This oxidation process, which can be compared to rust attacking iron, is continuous. Some cells, such as neurons, are particularly vulnerable to free radicals. Fortunately, the body produces its own antioxidant substances, which are able to fight them and thus prevent damage. However, as we age, the production of antioxidants decreases. In addition, if we adopt an unhealthy lifestyle, too fatty a diet, alcohol, cigarettes, we impose an excessive effort on the brain. So what is the solution? It is simply necessary to consume foods every day rich in antioxidants to limit the damage. For that, 1. Privileges the vitamins C, red fruits, citrus fruits, Brussels sprouts, broccolis, and the vitamin E, potatoes, olive oil, pumpkin and sunflower seeds. Tip number 7. Get enough sleep. Lack of sleep is particularly harmful to the brain. It slows down its functioning and causes difficulties in concentration and thinking while affecting short-term memory. The rule of thumb for keeping a healthy mind? Get enough sleep. Here are a few tips to help you sleep well. Avoid exciting substances such as caffeine and don't give in to the little evening drink in hopes of sleeping better. Alcohol can make you drowsy and make it easier to fall asleep, but it disturbs deep sleep, the phase during which you recover best. Exercise to get a healthy fatigue, but never less than 3 hours before bedtime. Your pulse and body temperature must have time to return to normal before you fall asleep. Make sure you sleep in a cool room so that your body temperature can drop. The brain focuses on a multitude of stimuli despite itself. This is why, for example, noise wakes us up. So remember to sleep in a quiet environment. No radio or TV in the bedroom at bedtime. If you are not yet a subscriber to the Top Fitness Health YouTube channel, consider subscribing, and if you want to be notified when a new video is released, consider activating the little bell. See you soon for more videos. And until then, take care of yourself.